Our coverage of Summit League Media Basketball Day, or Basketball Media, I guess is the way you should say it, here in Sioux Falls and Midco Sports Network continues. Brian, Shawn, Greg Stemen, now joined by NDSU men's basketball coach David Richman, and the Bison men have a whole new crew of folks. They do have some returners, but Dave, it's been an interesting offseason, just adding some of these pieces over the summer. You and I have talked a lot about that. You've now had a chance to get this group together throughout the course of the summer and throughout the fall. What do you think?
Yeah, I mentioned it, Brian, in the press conference over there, too, as well. I was doing an interview in September, and I said, Coach, you got 8 guys back. And I kind of paused, like, you know, you're always wanting a couple more. And he said, that's quite a bit from the landscape within the league. And I just think that just tells you a little bit how the game has changed. And certainly we are a developmental program, Brian, based on retention. And so the more kids that we can have back, the better. And so those 8 guys have done a great job of building themselves up. They had a tremendous spring, and then they welcomed the 6 newcomers in the spring, this summer and the fall. And to see them mesh 1-14, 14-1 has really been encouraging. And I think that chemistry that you talk about, the 2 staples within our program toughened together, we've answered some of those questions real early, and so it's been really fun and really exciting to see.
Coach, a couple of those returners, some guys that a lot of people talk about, Tyson Ward, who I think was a significant contributor last year. And then I go back to this past summer and Dengu, the success he experienced on the international level. How much has that impacted his confidence and your confidence in him? And also I'll go back to Tyson. What are you expecting out of these 2 guys?
You know, I think with Tyson, it starts with, I think there's a lot of expectations with Tyson. You know, he's that next leading scorer, so to speak. And you know, Paul Miller's gone after 4 years, after 3 years of being the leading scorer. And so just trying to get Tyson to understand that he has ability to impact the game in so many different ways on both ends of the floor, getting rebounds, getting assists. And so, you know, I could easily see him being our leading scorer as well, but that's not necessarily how he's going to have the greatest impact for us. I'd like to see him stuff the stats a little bit and getting him to understand that. And Dangu, it's been real fun to see. You know, he's added a couple pounds. He's been stronger that way. But to your point, Coach, to see his confidence coming back there, you know, and talking to his coach that he played with over there, you know, he was playing against grown men and had a lot of success against those grown men too. And so to see him come back and build some confidence on that has been real fun, real encouraging from my standpoint.
You know, for Dang, it was a guy we've just seen him take step after step after step. And I know from a coaching standpoint, even talking to your assistants, it's been trying to take one thing, okay, you got that, let's move to the next thing. But developmentally, we saw some things from him last year, some flashes that I'm certainly had to get you excited going into this offseason, getting him ready to play again.
Yeah, I think that all goes back to Brian. You know, he didn't start playing organized basketball until he was in 7th grade. And I know that might seem like 5 years of middle school, high school, and some college, but most of us picked up a ball when we were 2 or 3 years old. And so there was that adjustment period for him. And we asked him to do some different things that he'd done in high school and expand that versatility. And as you go through it, you know, we've learned, especially with Dang and all of our guys, clear minds, fresh legs. And to give him some of those absolutes and just to let him go and play. And we saw some of that at the end of the year. He can really create some mismatch problems with him at different positions. And again, I think and I hope and anticipate just building off that confidence from the summer.
Coach, success in the Summit League, there's seldom a disconnect between success and real good perimeter play. Yep. If you get good guard play in the Summit League, you put yourself in a position to compete. And so talk a little bit about the perimeter guys that you not only have returning, but the perimeter guys you've added into the mix.
Yeah, I really think as we go back and look at, you know, what we would consider a disappointing year, and you go back and look at 8 or 9 pure games where we got beat, you know, those were by about an average of 5.5 points. Take away another game where we got beat by 20 on the road, we're talking about 4.5 points. And so what am I getting at? That point guard play in particular, making those decisions and down the stretch is so crucial. And you have a redshirt freshman doing that for quite a bit. You move Paul, and again, in theory, that sounds good, but not his natural position. And so that hurt us. Let's make no mistake. And so having an experienced Cameron Hunter back from another year into it, and then the other very welcome addition in so many ways on and off the court has been Vinny Shaheed. And we talked off there at our scrimmage. You know, it was great to see, you know, what I would consider just a true natural point guard, a guy that can run a team, a guy that can organize a huddle, a guy that can talk about matchups, a guy that I'm on the same page with too. And so I'm very excited, and I think you can tell in my voice and my smile when you talk about Vinny Shaheed. He's a guy that we're very excited about to have in our program in so many ways.
You know, one of the things in the dynamics of getting a team together is to, as you said, meshing 1 through 14, but to find out who some of the peers think the leaders are. And for Vinny to be voted as a captain after only being with the program a few months, and then Jared Samuelson, who came here as a walk-on, nothing guaranteed, I think that says a lot about where the program's at. Is you give guys opportunities, and whoever takes the opportunities runs with them and shows maybe the most character are the guys that gain a lot of respect, not only with yourselves and the coaching staff, but amongst the teammates as well.
And they're both great leaders, but in completely different ways, where Jared just barely says boo, but just shows up every day and does his job and does it exceptionally. And a guy in so many ways shouldn't be playing Division I college basketball, but in other ways is, you know, excelling in a sense too. And so I think it starts with him, and that was an easy choice for our guys just by example. But Vinny, again, we talk about the impact that he's had on the court for myself, but it's almost more so off the court. The kid never shuts up. and I mean that as a compliment to him. You know, a quick little story, our academic lady says, Coach, I really like your 6 new guys. But Vinny is above and beyond. And so Vinny will walk into the academic room, and before he sits down and starts studying, he'll make sure his peers are in there and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And when you got that, the less these guys are going to get sick of me talking, right? And the less they can hear from me and the more they can hear from their peers, especially come February and March, that's all the better for our team.
And Coach, do you appreciate that? Even though you have 8 returners like you talked about, the guys aren't sitting back anticipating that, well, since these are the 8 guys that they're the ones that have earned it so far. It's every day is a new opportunity, and whether you're a new person on the block or one of the most experienced guys in the program, the opportunity is going to go to the guys who've earned them that day.
Correct, and I also think it's been good for some of our returners that necessarily just want to be a little bit more locked into their role and not have that leadership role, like for them to welcome that and to see that from the outside and be encouraged by those things. And so it works really twofold too. It takes some pressure off some other guys so they can go excel in their roles.
Right.
Dave, I know one thing as a coach, you and I have talked a lot in the offseason about looking at ourselves. What do we need to change routine-wise? What do I need to look at myself and what I need to do different? And you did make a few changes to your practice schedule, how you're doing things, and you take things not only from other coaches in your sport, but from other coaches in other sports. I've always kind of found that unique a little bit. You do that.
Yeah, again, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but it is what it is, a disappointing year by North Dakota State standards. And so you always are reflecting. And when you go back and reflect, nothing's broke, but there's always a couple tweaks that you're learning from. Let's go back and profile what's been a successful Bison. That's kind of where we started. But it's also great to have, you know, what people don't realize is when I started at North Dakota State, Ray Giacoletti was the head coach. Greg McDermott then came in. Tim Miles took over for him. Greg McDermott's assistant was Ben Jacobson. You know, then I had the opportunity to work for Saul Phillips. All guys that are, you know, there's 351 Division I head coaches, and 5 or 6 of them have been at NDSU. And so to be able to, in one call, pick up and talk to those guys has been great. And then now you have this new calendar where 42 days out from your first game, you're allowed 30 practices. And along with the access you have in the summer and the fall, you can lose your guys real quick if you grind them, if you're yelling and screaming and doing some of those things. And so it's been good to find some of that balance, talk to some peers and see how they're doing some things. So again, for us in the Summer League, it's important that we're rip-raring ready to go in February and March.
Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule, Dave. I know no favors done by the schedule makers this year, Dave. You and I have talked about that, but UC Santa Barbara at home, and then you're going to the Bahamas. No one's going to feel sorry for you for going there in November. But a challenging schedule, to say the least. At Gonzaga, at Iowa State, Missouri State at home. It's a tough schedule, but it's going to be a lot of fun, including a game at US Bank Stadium December 1st. Yeah,
and again, another question that came up in the press conference, and to me, it's almost, and I don't mean this to sound short or anything like that, but our non-conference schedule is what it is. And what I mean by that is we've had a fair amount of success. We have a location in Fargo, North Dakota that's geographically different from, you know, a lot of our other Division I peers. And so scheduling games just becomes that, finding any game that we can get. You look at going to East Tennessee State, okay, who's been very, very good, and then 2 days later flying across the country, or 1 day later flying across the country to two days later play a top 3 team in the country. You know, that is what it is. And we can sit there and compare ourselves, or we can sit there and go out there and compete. And again, the non-conference, we want to win every game, and we're going to put our best foot forward. But ultimately, we are trying to give ourselves the best chance in February and March to be ready to compete with our ultimate goal is the Summit Championships and the NCAA tournament.
Just real quickly, got to be excited about a couple of these freshmen you had come in. Just to see them get out and play, I'm guessing in the closed scrimmage and in the exhibition is going to be fun for you, just to see how these guys compete against somebody else.
Yeah, I'm going to be careful right now of just picking somebody out and talking specifics. But again, I think you can see the smile. They're the right kids. They fit the profile of what's been successful. They're hungry. They have great questions and very few answers, which is a big part of it. And I think the most encouraging, there's some talent. There's some real talent. And all four of them at times have shown glimpses of being better than we expected. Now the next day they might have taken a step back too. I think that's what you expect from freshmen too. But we're really excited. In the next couple of weeks here, we're going to talk about who's going to play, who's going to redshirt. But they've been all of them, along with Vinny and a transfer in Jordan Horn, have been very welcome additions to our program.
All right, we got some questions on social media from some folks and some fans. Let's go to Elena Lanson for those.
Hey, Coach, fans want to know who's going to step up and fill that offensive production this year.
Yeah, a fair question that we get quite a bit right now. I think the quick name that comes up is Tyson Ward. But when you look at the success of Bison basketball going back to 2014 and a lot of our successful years, we've been balanced across the board. And that's what I'm looking to see. Maybe one guy at 15 or 16, another guy at 12, some guys at 9, just a balance across the board for us.
And UND back in the conference. Are the guys looking forward to that rivalry? Are they pretty excited about it?
We've played them, the last couple of years home and away, and so they understand the impact of that rivalry, not just within us, but within a lot of people within the community, and it's certainly a rivalry. And I think it makes a lot of sense, and we're glad to have them back into the Summit League.
And you got a couple little girls at home. Have they picked up the ball? Have they taken to the sport yet?
A couple. We got a lot of little girls at home. Yeah. Mallory turns 11 here this year. It's really cool as a parent. I think most parents would tell you a lot of amongst your own. There's so many different personalities and skill sets and talents, and so a couple of them are into basketball. A couple of them are still figuring out what they're doing. A couple of them are dancing. So it's a lot of fun to be a parent.
First exhibition game a week from Thursday against Concordia, and then you jump right into it with the opener, I guess, at New Mexico State before coming home to play UC Santa Barbara. What's the most important thing to get done here in the next 7 to 10 days before the actual season starts?
Growth. Just growth. If we're focused on any result, if we're focused on a couple days ahead of us, we're going to miss opportunities to get better. And even in our scrimmage, we'd have some stretches of greatness, and then we would relax a little bit, and that's what we can't do. We've got to take every opportunity that we're together as a group to grow and get better. Again, I've said it countless times, to be where we need to be in February and March.
Thanks as always for the time, Dave. We'll be seeing a lot of you over the next 4 months. Sorry about that. Stay with us. More to come here from Summit League Media Day. Brittany Lang from Omaha Women's Basketball joins us on the other side of this break.